again. Good morning, everyone. Happy May 24th. I hope it is as nice where you are as it is for us here in Ottawa, Canada. So one little highlight for everybody first, please. I want to highlight the fact that when you come in to the podcast each week, could I please ask you to take responsibility for muting yourself so that you know that we're not going to be interrupted with background noise and that kind of thing. All right. It saves Braden having to do massive editing, and sometimes that's in the background over what I'm trying to say to everybody who has taken the time to join us. So that will be your job, and giving you the best material I can find on the topic is my job. So today we're going to talk about a little more about habit forming. And the reason that that's so important is that the very reason you come here means that there are habits, things that repeat, that you're not satisfied in your life. And highest probability is they have to do with piles or clutter, or maybe even to the extent of it constituting a hoarding situation. That's a continuum. All right. Not everyone who has a hoarded environment that they're living in necessarily has hoarding disorder. All right. It is a spectrum. It is a continuum. But whatever it is, if you're here with me, it's not something you want in your life. All right. So remember, I just want to give you a little reminder, because we're going to build on that, of something that we talked about last week. And that was, if we create a craving, which is what we want, but we want a positive one, that craving is what makes the cue and the reward work. Remember, we talked about cue, routine, reward, and the reward has to be satisfying enough for us to care what the routine is, to put the effort into improving that routine, fine-tuning it so you get more satisfying results. If you're not getting satisfying results, you're not going to care, because we need to build a craving for that positive outcome. I want you to think, I don't like the word craving, but so I want to substitute every time I have to say the word craving, because that is the content scientifically. I want you to think, I want a taste for this. All right. This is what I want to experience, and I want it a lot. So it's the craving that makes the cue and the reward work. The craving itself, that craving that we have developed, is what actually powers the habit loop. It isn't our motivation. It isn't our willpower. Okay. All right. So when we get cued, which is always the first step, and sometimes substitute the word triggered. All right. When we get cued or triggered powerfully enough, it will convince us to carry out a certain action. Now, that certain action is the routine. So the cue, if it's strong enough, important enough to us, will prompt a routine or for us to take an action. And the better the cue that ends up with the reward we're looking at, or the one we settle for, please don't do that. Accept no substitutes. If you're not getting what you want, you keep looking, you keep digging. All right. Substitutes are never going to give you the outcomes, the happiness, the life you want. So when we have a great reward, we figure that one out, and we get cued or triggered regularly, and let's hope the regularly is a good and productive habit. Remember, the key to forming the habit, any habit, is based on two basic rules. The first rule is that we find It has to be simple enough. And the cue or trigger has to be obvious. You have to recognize it when you see it, hear it, or experience it. Sometimes the cue can be the internal message, so you be careful that it's not the voice on the committee that's cueing you, because how's that work so far? And do you really want to repeat that? All right. So that simple, obvious cue is connected. Somehow they interrelate, the cue and the action or routine. And when we engage in that, our hope is always, even if it doesn't turn out the way we want, all right, it is always to be satisfied, at least satisfied. All right. Now, it can also, the reward can also be to avoid by not doing something. So as you're forming a new habit, the reward might be you changed it up a little bit and you didn't get that negative result. Or even if it wasn't entirely what you're looking for, it wasn't anywhere near in the spectrum of what it has been in the past that was really dissatisfying. So that routine and reward, the reward can be to avoid as well. Avoiding the wrong outcome is a positive, even if it isn't thrilling in the moment. But we're going for thrilling. We're going for all out, fills your boat. All right. So an action that we don't want to do is probably one that has led us somewhere that we recognize, I was here. Have you ever been in that situation where you're knee deep in it and you go, this is very familiar and not in a good way. I don't think I want where I'm headed. All right. So in that case, the habit or habits, because the routine is more than one action, remember, can also be to be avoidant. Now, when Netflix or some other equivalent distraction has been the reward that you've given yourself, and it's part of avoidant behavior, all right, that needs rejigging. All right. Yeah, it's satisfying because in the moment, it gives you something better than the work, something better than whatever you were not looking forward to. All right. So, but we're looking for what gives you, in a positive way, progress and gives you a little thrill as well. All right. You're happy. All right. The second step, all right, for each and every one of us is to clearly define what the rewards are that will satisfy you. Why? Because if you just leave it to chance, you can habituate whatever happens as a result of whatever action. You can be habituating the wrong thing. Make sure you're driving the bus. All right. Now, a little later on in this podcast, I'm going to give you a metaphor that I find really, really helpful personally, and I want to offer it to you. I can't take credit for it, but I will credit it at that point. Okay. So it's really, really, really especially important that the reward achieves the satisfaction and we experience that satisfaction. That's the reward. All right. Okay. So if we seek rewards, if we really put some thought into this and figure out, what does success for me look like? Work back. Don't just accept you find yourself cue, routine. Here we are again. Okay, we pull back a little bit. Head out knowing the target that for each and every one of you is satisfying. Because if it isn't satisfying, it's not going to help you habituate anything other than being off track. Think right now, all right? Think of one habit that you would like to either increase because it's a good habit, strengthen, or if it's not so great, you really want to avoid it. All right. You want to lessen the number of times you have to back up and start again. What would that habit be? Let's make it real today for each and every one of you. It'll be different for each of the 32 people here. All right. Make it be your reward, your habit, rather. Okay. So now, if you see that habit and you know you want to increase it or you know you want to eliminate it, what would the reward be? What would be the easiest, most satisfying, not maybe ultimate, but really better than just good enough? What would the reward be? You have to know that ahead of time. You have to just think about that, invest in yourself. Okay, write that down. What would the reward be? You can always enhance the reward. You get a taste of that and you think, oh, that was pretty good. But you know what? I think there's something better out there for me. You can always improve it. What would be more than okay? That would be, I would really appreciate that. I'd like that. Write that one down because that one is probably the easiest one to start with. So, but then I want you to move on and I want you to seek. I want you to be like a hound dog out seeking the reward that will just satisfy you enormously. All right. The third rule. So the word craving has got kind of a negative connotation. The third rule, though, is craving, developing a craving. All right. Cravings can be positive, they can be negative. So watch it. When things don't turn out the way we want, and we want them because we really believe we need them, all right, the reward isn't satisfying enough. If it didn't turn out, you're on the wrong track. The reward you want to give yourself might be a positive, but it isn't anything that's going to thrill your bits. All right. It isn't anything that's going to motivate you. You need to up your game. You need to dare to dream higher. And you need to really go inside yourself and say the 3 words. What do I need? Where is it? Not what would be good enough. What would I be satisfied with? What could I settle for? What do I need right now? Where is it and how do I get enough of it to make enough of a difference? Because if the reward isn't satisfying enough, you're going to end up disappointed and discouraged. When we see the cue and we start to anticipate the reward, all right, but then it doesn't arrive, or something arrives, but it isn't the reward, all right, or it isn't satisfying enough. Yeah, it's good enough. Not really. We remain unsatisfied. And guess what that does? That ramps your stress level. When you're trying to make improvements in your life, in your habits, do you actually want more stress? Okay. When we repeat accepting rewards that aren't satisfying enough, and they don't have to be world peace. It could be more sleep. It could be that feeling when you say, you know what? I did it. I did it. I'm going to talk to you a little bit later about, and I did it. And I can't believe I did it, but I did it. Moment for me in Uganda. All right, boy, that was my head bouncing off the cue, I'll tell you. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah. It was a little desperate and I wasn't always well behaved, I have to tell you. All right. But we'll talk about that later. All right. So when we keep going after the wrong thing, we end up frustrated. Anybody here been frustrated by trying to make a change and you end up sitting looking at yourself in the mirror saying, oh, here I am again. I know. Or angry. angry with somebody else, angry with yourself, angry with the world, angry with the stuff. You do that long enough, and whatever level of unhappiness, dissatisfaction, you can build a trench of depression and being overwhelmed. And that's a hole that's hard to get out of. I'm here to help you, but it's not an easy thing. And anyone out here today with me not relate to, once we develop a habit and our brain anticipates the reward, all right? The distractions were a tiny bit less seductive. When we really have our, think of the one thing, I don't care whether it was you wash the dishes and put them away. It can be simple, doesn't have to be world peace, all right? You had a cue or a trigger, you chose a behavior, a series of behaviors, a routine, and you know what? You crossed the finish line. You crossed the finish line. Did you cross the finish line by being distracted by everything that came up in the meantime? Probably not. And the more the reward is satisfying enough, the less those distractions are going to get a hold on you. So choose the reward well. Now, some habits, I'm going to talk about keystone habits in a minute. Some habits have the power to really, really help us because they start a chain of reactions that result in just naturally influencing change in other habits. It's like they are, you know, the keystone in an archway. They are the thing that keeps it together and exerts the right kind of influence that you have kind of like a flow of other habits that are just that much easier. All right. These habits, keystone habits, matter more than any other. All right. Because they have the power. The nature of a keystone habit is to prompt us to remake the decisions in our lives. All right. And we call them keystone habits. They are powerful enough to influence how each and every one of us engage in daily life. And even to the point of how we communicate. All right. Keystone habits can't find blah, blah, blah. Okay, Braden, edit. Keystone habits start a process that over time can transform everything. They are worth knowing about. This is why I want to spend some of our time today really making sure that we get a handle on this tool. It's an ability that we have within ourselves already. This is not a habit you have to form. You have to work at it. You have to strengthen it, but you already have it. You just may not be aware that it is a keystone. And we're going to finish today by me showing you how to figure out what keystone habits you already have that you can build on. We use them to access and use the power behind a keystone habit. And when we see them, when we use them, they demonstrate that success, we have success within us. It proves it to us that it doesn't depend on getting every single thing right. It doesn't depend on identifying the right answers before we engage. Okay. It does help us to identify a few key priorities. Everything can't be equally important. All right. Keystone habits help us to identify a few key priorities and then help us set a structure to make those priorities majorly powerful levers that help propel us in the direction we want to go. All right, so how do we create them? Okay, how can they be changed? So the question really is, where habits start, that's where we need to start noticing them. All right, we need to be more aware of the habits, the things we do that are repeat patterns. And we need to catch them at the first moment of awareness. The habits that matter the most are the ones that when they start to shift, they start to dislodge. So there are patterns. We need to start noticing patterns, all right? Because those patterns, when they start to shift, they start to dislodge. There's no room. There isn't enough room for the bad habits, for the bad parts of our routine, unproductive, all right? And as they these keystone habits, these priorities, they start to occupy more space. So they're pushing other behaviors, other choices out of the way, and they help us then to change the pattern in our life. A good example, okay, and I really like this example, so I hope you like it too. Let's look at Olympic athletes and how they train. We are not Olympic athletes. Well, we are actually Olympic athletes of our life because we're still in the game. We're still running the race. We haven't given up and gone and sat by the sidelines. Okay, so everybody here is in their own way an Olympic athlete of life. All right, so we're going to look a little bit at how Olympic athletes train and prepare. Michael Phelps. Have you ever watched Michael Phelps? Okay. Or my personal favorite is the Canadian high jumper who won gold in the Olympics. All right. A rare event. All right. So if you watch them, and I'm getting ahead of myself, but when you watch them, all right, sort of think it out. Imagine, visualize success. Visualize success. All right. And when you watch this Canadian high jumper, visualize the path that he has trained so hard that he has every hope will be successful. You can see them play it out. Do the same thing in your mind. Imagine success. What does success look like? What would be the first available step? That's your liftoff point. What would be the next step? What would be the likely next step? And as we visualize this image of next step, next step, next step, go, all right? Watch him. Now, check it out because it used to be the closing video, the network closing video on CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. So if you get it, it used to be the last thing you see as the network shut down for the night. And literally, you could see him, you could almost feel, all right, the energy in his visualizing. It was like 1, 2, 3, up. And he did it like 3 or 4 times. I don't think if war had been declared at that moment, he would have been aware of it. That's how much energy he put into locking down the steps. He didn't start learning to do that day or the week before. So you start today, please pick one thing that you want to change for the better, or one thing that has way too much authority in your life that you want to change today, which is still a positive. And I want you to go, what cues me or triggers me? All right. What would be my first step? What's the first thing I have to do? What would be the next step? What would be the next step after that that would either get me closer or get me further away from the thing I don't want to do? Right? So he is standing there He has already cleared that high jump 4 times by the time his foot touches the ground. Imagine it and visualize it. All right. He hasn't even started to move. He is hitting markers. What are your markers that are the routines that lead you to where you want most to be? Pick something small, pick something doable, start small and practice. Start small and experiment. All right. Because visualizing, you can't hit it if you don't know what the target looks like. Right? You can't hit it if you don't know what your target looks like. And then give yourself step 1, step 2, step 3, and go. All right. It was amazing to see. And I found it very motivating as well. All right. Because you could actually see when he went into action, and you will too if you practice it. All right. He nailed exactly the same spots. And guess what? He succeeded. And he was the rare fellow to get a gold medal for the Canadian team. All right. Like him, you can sail over the high bar. All right. And the high bar can be a positive or avoiding a negative. You choose. What do you want most? All right. And just like him, you'll get your own gold medal. All right. And you'll get the feeling that is connected with that, the reward, the satisfaction, the self-respect, the sense of and you know that guerrilla trekking that I did as part of Conquer the Challenges, I can't tell you how many times since I've come back, I faced things and I thought, come on, if you can do that and you did it, all right, I'm not a star, I'm not exceptional. All right, it was a challenge. It tested me right down to my core. All right. And I wasn't 100% sure we were going to actually come out of it. All right. But I did it. And once you've done it, that is a marker for you that you can never erase. All right. I have encouraged myself to do all kinds of things since then, based on you did that with all of the drawbacks. You did it. And you can do this too. All right. You didn't believe necessarily that you could do it. In fact, you had a lot of concerns that that video was going to be you going, oh, sorry, folks. But it didn't turn out that way. All right. I want you to have that same experience. But if you don't challenge yourself and start small, I started with, okay, I'm actually going to walk 3,000 steps a day instead of sit in front of my computer and do business. Yep. Then I'm going to go to 5. Then I'm going to go to 10. All right. Then I'm going to walk. Well, I don't know how far I'm going to walk, but I'm going to walk as far out as I can manage. And I'm going to take a rest. And then I'm going to walk back. You know, that day that I tested myself, I wonder, I wasn't sure. It could have been 1 kilometer. Who knew? I went 5 kilometers out and 5 kilometers back. I was dying at the end of it. But you know what? I did it. I did it. And I can remember the first time. I've got asthma. I don't have a great left ankle. I have a spinal fusion in the base of my spine. Okay, I'm not crying pity here. All right, pity me. I'm saying that none of those were allowed to be an obstacle. I had maybe to change my pace. All right. It maybe took me longer to do it. Maybe I didn't go like a racehorse at it, but I did it. And I can remember the first time Hafsa and I walked up that hill, I thought I'd die. I was going to say, okay, send the paramedics. And the second time I headed out, I thought, you better bring your inhaler. All right. Didn't need it. Okay. Didn't need it. All right. But the 20th time I did it, no, I was not an Olympic athlete, but you know what? I could breathe and I didn't look purple by the top. What is your hill? Please do yourself a favor. Don't just sit and listen to me today. Take it, take what I'm telling you, chew it, digest it, and in some small way this week, use it. Use it. And if you have to come back to the podcast to rehear it, I'll ask Braden to see if he can get this one up ASAP. Okay. All right. But first decide, what's the reward? What is the reward? All right. Because I had that video, all right, you've chosen gorilla trekking, but you're going to be videoed. All right. So you want to pull this one out of your hat. All right. So some people, after years of trying, why do you think they can suddenly, and that's you folks today, why after years of trying or months of trying or repeated trying, suddenly accomplish something that they didn't think that they could accomplish? It's not that you think you can't accomplish it. It's like, I don't have the answer to get there. I probably can, but I just don't know the dance steps. All right. If you want to see that in real life, all right, wait for the Conquer the Challenges video, the Conquer the Challenges project video. Okay. It's going to be posted within the next few weeks. I'm doing the narration for it next week. It's going to be on hoarding.ca, a la gorilla trekking. It'll be a specific video. All right. Now, please don't be impressed by me, because I am just like you. All right. What it is it's evidence that when you believe, not necessarily that you can ace it, but that if there's any way possible, all right, you can do this by baby steps. And you dig deep within yourself. Boy, I tell you, I dug deep. I dug so deep, I thought my feet were planted. All right. Even when you think the task might be impossible. And I can remember after that first trek thinking, oh Lord, is there any way out of the second one? All right. And then I had to stop and switch my negative thinking. And I had to fight with myself. All right. And I said to myself, stop it. You know the parameters. All right. You know the parameters. You're not swimming the ocean. You did it. Yeah, you hurt like all get out. All right. But you did it. And that means that for certain, no, but the highest probability is you can do the next one. Just make sure it's not Kilimanjaro. Okay. Because after all, when you got in condition for length, not for hills. Okay. So it does, though. It does help you persevere. And you can do this too. If I can do it, I promise you, you can do it. But you won't believe that until you experience a piece of that yourself. There's nothing special about me. I deliberately chose an activity, all right, because I had absolutely no experience, all right. I am not a marathoner. I'm a sprinter, all right. So marathoning, that was not Elaine Birchall, okay. And certainly no reliable capacity at my age, in my physical condition. All right. What I had, though, was what if you keep coming back here every week, you have already a strong, strong desire to show in real life, unfiltered, unscripted. All right. Nobody planned this. Okay. Coming face to face with challenges that pop up and present themselves. And then in the face of the pop-up challenge that you didn't, well, you kind of prepare, you hope you kind of prepared for, but who knew? It was the first time out. Even the second time was entirely different, and the third was entirely different from there. And I've got a funny little story about the third one. All right. Having to dig deep I'm talking dig deep. Okay. And there's one point in the video on the third trek. I'm not going to let them cut it. It is me in a raw moment when we have walked under the almost the worst conditions that I've ever walked in my life, and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles. All right. We come to a wall and everybody has disappeared. And so my little group, my 6 porters and myself, and the security guard with the rifle behind us, I said, where'd everybody go? And they said, up there. Okay, but up there had no path. It had no steps. It had no rocks to kind of work your way up. It was, do you know how long 500 meters is? It was 500 meters, dragging yourself vertically up on underbrush and tree roots that were growing out of a wall. All right. And one of my porters thought it'd be a really good idea to get behind me, take me by the fanny and try to push me up. And I said, there will be no pushing. I don't know where that came from. I don't know where that came from. That was out of my mouth before I even thought. But at the bottom of the hill, as I'm looking up, and the tracker is pointing up, they went up there. All I can see is green. All right. And I had they had the video camera on me, and I thought, I think this is where you're supposed to say something. I don't know what I'm going to say that's going to be sort of usable. And then I went, like, it was just out of my mouth. Okay. And I went, right now I could kill someone. And I thought, oh, that's better than what it could have been, Elaine. And we started to haul ourselves up 500 meters. All right. I won't give you the finish. I want you to see the video. Okay. So that right now I'd like to kill somebody was a really low moment, because I thought, I've come all this way. I have, like, seriously, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do this. I'm going to drag myself vertically up a rock face, all right, with no toe hold, all right, and it's going to just be with upper body strength and my feet sliding on slime. Okay, that was an unguarded moment, but I offer it to you because you may have moments like that as well, having nothing to do with underbrush. All right, get ready for it. You're up to it. At that moment, I was digging deeper, truthfully, than I think I have almost ever dug in my life. All right. The reward was there. I need to finish. I need to finish. And I'm thinking, high in the sky, all we can do is give it our best and keep going. Don't give up. All right. You can do the same thing. Whatever it is you want, it's there. It is possible. It wouldn't be possible if you couldn't imagine it. If you can imagine it, you can do it. The only thing missing is how to. All right. And working out with tiny baby step experiments for gradual success. What is the habit you want to form or you want to break? Okay, it's out there. It is ready for you. That's why you are imagining it. And the keystone habits we're talking about today, I swear, are the way to make you ready for what is required. When was the last time you ever asked yourself or made a list of anything? Okay, especially something you hope to accomplish in your lifetime. Have you got a list of things? Gorilla trekking was not among my list. All right, but challenging myself to the point of insecurity, that was facing the demon of what are your limits. All right. And then when you've got that list, and I hope you make it this week, I'm hoping you'll look a little further to see, are there any patterns that jump out at you about that list? All right. The dreams, the list is really your dreams, especially about what you did. Maybe you've made partial success in the past, or you've done something that's similar and it was good enough. You felt pretty good. That's something to build on. How did you do that little part? If any of those dreams, if you've made any of those dreams happen, all right, or other avoidant dreams not happen, there probably are similarities, right? This effort won't be exactly the same, but keystone habits trigger the small, special places in each of us, because there's something about keystone habits that make other habits easier. All right. If you focus on changing or cultivating keystone habits, you can cause just naturally out of the keystone habit widespread shifts. All right. And so the key then is identifying keystone habits and what they can be for you. All right. So it's a little bit tricky. To find them, you need to know where to look inside yourself. Detecting keystone habits mean that you need to search out certain characteristics in your behavior. All right. And the choices you make as a result of your behavior. Keystone habits will be embedded. You just haven't been using them. Keystone habits offer what is known as that feeling, that taking the risk sometimes of a small, tiny little, doesn't make a big noise inside you, has been in hiding, small, increasing probability. Listen for it. All right. And that probability is, there are a series of small, we're talking small wins, but that series of small wins, they help other habits to become even stronger. All right. Why? Because as you do them, you repeat them to a certain point, which is the furthest you've gone so far. You've actually, without realizing it, created a new structure. You have really useful habits that are routines. You have those already. You're just letting them veer off, or you're not following through. You're giving up too soon. Okay, there is that word routine again. Okay, you can form keystone habits that help you relax. Say you get to a certain point and you start to get really stressed, or you're distracted, or you're bored, or you're something negative that distracts. Use strategies that de-stress you. De-stress breathing. An easy one that is always with you is to clench your hands and your arms right up to your neck, both of them, as tight as you can. Hold it for about 5 seconds and then let it go. Do that a few times, and then a few slow, deep breaths, and you won't be as stressed as you were prior to doing that. You just physically will let go of a lot of it. Okay. All right. So when you think, please, all right, but then you do it, you're going to find out that there are easy, accessible ways right now. They might be new to you, but they will help you de-stress. And when you can unload enough of the stress, then you can look past your own behaviors rather than being distracted by how awful you feel, how bored you feel, how fill in the blank you feel. All right. You got to unload the stress. You got to unload that excitement, that kind of the shopping channel, all right, that, oh, here it is, the answer to my life. All right. And, it's only 6 easy payments. Oh my gosh, there are only 3 left and 7 people are looking at it. All those manipulative things that you distract, you focus on, and they distract you away from things you already have in you, in your own past behaviors, especially if you ever used them before. When you're facing a difficult situation like getting started to declutter, these routines, all right, de-stressing, refocusing, deep breathing to keep yourself going, adequate sleep, adequate hydration, these routines can become core self-care routines that we repeat often enough, all right, like I had to do in Uganda, that get you to where you want to be. So I have to admit that in Uganda, my assessment was this just is not happening without a lot of preparation. All right, this is never, okay, this is going to be a complete pratfall if you don't have the right equipment, all right, and you don't have the right support. So I sat down and I asked myself those 3 questions. What do I need? Not in the overall grand picture, but the challenge, the step that is right in front of me. What do I need? And then I asked myself again with step 2, step 3, step 4. I'm not trying to solve the whole issue from my armchair. What do I need right now? Next. So one of the things that I realized would be really good, because after you spend a day and a half on a plane, you're not really feeling spry. In fact, you kind of feel like a knot that's been tied up, all right, dumped in water and allowed to dry. All right. So I had a massage every day. Okay, sounds good, eh? Think again. Okay. When you really hurt, all right, it's not necessarily a pleasant thing. She was a killer. All right. That woman had I'm not trying to make you laugh. It's true. All right. That woman had hands of steel. All right. Pleasant experience? Not always. A lot of the time, not actually, because everything hurt coming into that massage. We're talking hurt. All right. But I endured it because it loosened me up like nothing else. That's what I needed. What you need is not always something that's going to fill you with joy. All right. All right. You want the prize at the end? Okay, you're going to step in a bit of mud. I got rid of the stress, the fatigue, and the tension in my truly aching muscles, stiff as board muscles sometimes. Did I look forward to it? Not at all. All right. And in fact, thinking of that, the massage that was to come that day, like clenching, very much like getting started to declutter and make decisions. All right. But it probably saved me from an injury. It almost certainly saved me from an injury. All right. And that would have derailed the next trek. I could have given myself an excuse and not had the massage and said, I'm just not physically up to it. What's the end product? What is it you're looking for? Don't back away from it. All right. I also had to make sure that my ankle had support. My left ankle, I've broken it twice in the last 7 years in the same spot. Thank you, dog toys. I have a spinal fusion with a rod at the base of my spine. My hips don't work quite right because they can't rotate like they're supposed to. Both of those were a major liability. So when you see this video, you're going to see I've got a porter. I got 6 porters. Well, I only really needed 2 porters. All right. But these people This is their livelihood. And you know what they get paid? You know what they get paid? $15 a day. A day. All right. So I hired 6. All right. I looked at my budget and I thought, what can I afford? And I hired 6, not at $15 a day. And then I thought, okay, I could cause a problem here for them. All right. So if you want to give them a really good tip, make out envelopes. Hide the money in envelopes so that you're just handing them an envelope. They don't have to open that envelope for anybody else to see. It's not going to cause a problem. It's not going to cause resentment. All right. You're going to see I've got a porter on each arm, not to carry me. All right. Not to do it for me, just to give me what I needed. And what I needed was to keep my footing, particularly my left foot, level, because the footing was brutal. All right. Ruts and holes and hill and just, I could have broken that ankle again on the first left foot I put down. The footing was terrible. What do you need to keep you level? In this thing you want, what do you need to keep you level? It's out there. Nobody's going to hand it to you. You're the one who knows you better than anybody. What do you need? You need the environment was exactly the opposite of what I needed. I've got asthma. The first trek, I thought I'd die. I'm as white as they come. I'm so white that I blend into clouds. All right. Like that's how white I am. And I burn like all get out. All right. I figured rainforest, we're going to be under a canopy of, no, not that day. First day, we are going straight up, 1,400 meters straight up. All right. On uneven ground in the blazing sun. I'm thinking I am going to be a crispy critter by the end of this. I'll probably have skin cancer. Did I think to put? No, I was afraid I'd sweat and it would get in my eyes. Well, sometimes we don't always think things through clearly, but we do our best. All right, so I face this and you face it too. This is not a funny story. This is real life. You face it too with a lot of humility. Humility is your best friend. Arrogance is not. I faced it with the right supports because I gave it some thought. I accepted my weaknesses and my vulnerabilities. Okay. And I made sure to the best of my ability to have the right tools. I think I accomplished something I didn't believe was possible. I believed that I was going to do this to my last breath. All right. But did I really have the confidence that this was going to be possible? No, I have to tell you, I didn't. For a woman my age, in my physical condition, okay, what got me through? What will get you through? You've got your liabilities as well. Other than a spinal fusion, herniated disc in your neck, being past the age where you normally do this, not being in the best physical condition, but I was in slightly better physical condition when I got there, and an ankle that would give out on me just by breathing on it. Okay. What are your vulnerabilities? What are your liabilities? Know them, accept them humbly, believe in yourself. What got me through? Very simply, from the time I've been knee-high to a grasshopper, all right? If I give my word, I keep my word, all right? And I had promised to you folks to face every one of these challenges without any scripting, without any editing, just raw, so that you could see the truth about challenges. All right. and what it takes for you and me to do exactly the same thing in our life with your priorities and your goals, to do what I did over those 11 days. All right. It honestly takes having a goal that is so important to you that it is not more important than anything else, but it is definitely in the higher range of important to you. All right. The other thing it takes is being humble. You think that that would fill you all full of you know what and vinegar? No. Humility and honesty with yourself, telling yourself the truth. You can't solve the right problem if you don't tell yourself the truth. And sometimes that's an unpleasant truth about what kind of a fit you are for the goal that you're setting, and how ready, how able you are. And if you're not ready and you're not able, you need to take even smaller baby steps to build the strength and the skills and the strategies to close that gap. Okay. And then again, we're going to repeat it, being humble and accepting, asking for and accepting the help you need to get through those challenges, as well as making sure you have the tools that will support your unique vulnerabilities and challenges. So if they don't have, because those vulnerabilities then don't have to be deal breakers. They will be deal breakers if they surprise you. If you don't honestly recognize and accept your vulnerabilities and your challenges, they will be deal breakers because they'll pop up. You won't be ready. All right. And in preparation for something else that you should be aware of, and I have to say this, don't expect that others will appreciate or agree with you. You should also get ready for the naysayers. It completely sucker punched me. All right. I had a person, because there are always people who want to find something wrong with the situation or negative. All right. I had one person who said that they believed I had an agenda in going to Uganda. All right. And talking about this to you folks after they insinuated was my agenda. No, it isn't. And that somehow that colored the whole project and my motivation in a negative light. Right. And of course, through their insight, this had to be the truth, right? Because anybody who always has to color something gray or black is always right, correct? But only because they turn the lights out and they don't look at really what's around them. So when you do this yourself, just get ready for it. Other people's opinions don't matter. This is your life. You know the truth about it. You deserve your goals and your way to live it, so long as you're not hurting yourself or deliberately hurting someone else. And you deserve to get the satisfaction that you're looking for. I'd be interested, once you've seen the video, for a little bit of honest feedback, and I'm open to honest feedback if I'm wrong. So I'd also be interested in knowing what keystone habits, I'm going to ask you next week. Sorry, there's homework. All right. What keystone habits do you think you need in order to face something in your life that you want to change or you want to avoid? All right. Similar to me in gorilla tracking that in those 11 days. All right. And I'm hoping that when you see that video, you're going to realize you can do it too in your own way. It is possible. It is doable. And I've gone through this elaborate explanation so you understand what you need to invest in the underpinnings to give yourself half a chance at success. So let's go find those keystone habits. We're going to run over a little bit, folks. When we habituate, the pieces of habituating something seem to fall into place on their own. and increasingly, oddly enough, with less and less effort. More importantly, less and less conscious thought. Habits become habits, right? And every time we do that, we get another small win. I want you to run a few small, manageable experiments, just tiny ones this week. All right. In sequencing, build on those small wins, because those can lead you to wonderful places, places you do want to be. Small wins are exactly what they sound like. And they're part of how keystone habits create the widespread changes that we've talked about this morning. All right. Once a small win has been accomplished, just a small one, a force is set in motion inside you. And I've experienced that. This is not just gobbledygook. All right. This is what I encountered that I bring to you facing down gorilla trekking at my age and my condition. All right. Those small wins, going from 2,000 steps to 3,000 steps to 5,000 steps to 10,000 steps to 10 miles. Unfortunately, do better research than I did, because Uganda is very mountainous and I was training on flat surfaces. There will be some hiccups. All right. So those small wins set in motion a series of other small wins, and another and another and another. And the combination of those small, doable, manageable wins that are within your reach fuel a transformative change in you. I have experienced that. This Conquer the Challenges project, this is true stuff. All right. So how does it do that? How do those small wins in sequence do that? By levering tiny advantages that you don't realize you have, because you've never been in that territory. All right. So those small wins turn into patterns. And if you're conscious of what you're doing, you start to believe that small wins are doable, they're possible, and they are important. They are important in each thing you want to make progress on, to make a deliberate effort to notice. Because when you notice them and you experience them, they convince you, they do convince you that bigger achievements are far closer to being in reach than you would have imagined back there. But you did it by small, doable, tiny wins. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And perhaps just a few small wins ahead, it will take no effort to see how with each step, you're creating that path closer and closer to your predetermined goal. All right. You convince yourself of those small wins by small sequencing, we're talking small, doable wins, one after the other. All right. So they will also, once you get the hang of that and you're conscious of it, they'll also convince you that the opportunity is there to uncover more resources. Do you think that I thought of ankle supports? Do you think I thought of having a porter under each arm when I started to plan? No, I started to visualize, how can this go wrong, badly wrong? And I started to fill in what I need. And I didn't think porter. First I thought sedan chair. We're going to finish with a funny little story that happens to be true. I thought, okay, I need something under my arm. If I could just have something like I could do this with, okay? Well, that wasn't going to be possible on that terrain. I had to jig the plan. Okay, what is available? Okay, this is what I need, not something else. What is there that is possible? And I thought, one strong person on this side and one strong person on this side, and all they have to do is hold their arm out. And I'm gonna hold their hand, and I'm gonna balance myself on their arm, so that when I put my foot down, I'm on solid ground. That took a little time to come up with. It was so doable. And I met the nicest people. I almost made friends. If we could socialize together, just the loveliest people. It was a wonderful experience. All right. And I developed a few skills as well. A few skills that support, like one of my skills was to articulate, we are not going to do another trek in the blazing sun on a 1,400 meter elevation, climbing a 1,400 meter elevation. There must be some kind of more compatible environment here. So articulating that, figuring out what I didn't need, working backward, taught me, speak up, Elaine, and be very clear about what you're going to need and what you're not going to accept. All right. They were onerous, like kill you onerous, but they were really lovely walks on very tough terrain. Following that. All right. And if I had just gone along with it and not taken responsibility for what I need, I would be a crispy critter right now. All right. So, and the killer massages. I didn't look forward to them. It's what I needed. And the ankle support. What do you need? Okay. Not to mention, I'm going to end on this one. One of the other things I needed, I was convinced that a sedan chair was the way to go as an insurance policy. Now, my son made an interesting observation that was emblazoned on my brain, and that was, Mom, you're a social worker. You are not seriously going to be a white woman sitting on a sedan chair and somebody's carrying you on their shoulders in Africa. Might that just be a little colonial? Okay, is that even in your belief system? I couldn't get that picture out of my brain. All right. And I thank him for it. But in humility, I had to accept that maybe there were going to be challenges, and maybe I might get it wrong, and maybe I might end up injured. All right, miles and miles into the rainforest. So the first day I paid a lot of money for a sedan chair, and I paid for 12 more porters who rotate out to carry it. Okay, here's the truth. So one of the other things that was also in my core was, not to mention telling our guide on the first trek, all right, when right out of the gate, like right at the start, we're starting to head off, he turns over his shoulder and he says, this would be a good time to get on the sedan chair. And without even realizing it, okay, I have to confess, I had a slight outburst. And without even thinking, all right, a little voice inside me that was louder than I meant surprised me by saying, I'll die first. No, I'll die first. And he looked back and said, okay. And I think they thought they were in for like quite a day. Anyway, that surprised me. And sometimes there are core beliefs you have about yourself that have gotten you through a lot of other things that are hiding inside, waiting to help you. All right, let them out. Make friends with them. Those are also part of you. Keystone habits can be formed at the beginning by visualizing, by relaxing, by getting yourself in a calm, relaxed state, and then imagining success step by step. And owning your own decisions and being exactly who you are. I will see you next week. I've given you a little homework. I will check up on it. Please do it. This is really, Keystone Habits really are within us, and we don't even realize it. So challenge yourself with tiny little experiments and get enough of those easy wins that you're building on a platform that is you. Okay? See you next week, everybody. Thanks for coming. Take care.